All right, welcome back to another episode of Stitch Method. As you probably can tell, having some issues with the live stream. As soon as I get that figured out, I'll be live streaming again. Some sort of problem with YouTube and iPhones. Go figure. All right, so on to our lesson about pentatonic mastery and my pet peeves within and how to practice. Lots of P's in this video. All right, so really quickly, this lesson is geared towards anyone who doesn't like the sound they're getting out of their pentatonic scale when they're soloing. There's a massive amount of information on my channel about pentatonic scales and on all of YouTube about pentatonic scales, but I know what it's like when you have the information but you just don't feel like you're making some music. So this is for a beginner, intermediate, anyone who just wants to sharpen up their flow of the instrument. So really quickly, I've been teaching guitar for many, many, many years, and I do have a pet peeve when it comes to the pentatonic. And I mentioned this in one of my videos, which is when somebody plays the pentatonic with this like jumping around a staircase effect, and I'll show you what I mean. If I pick an A minor pentatonic, the proper way to practice this flow in this form would be just to play the low note into the next highest note, into the next highest note, into the next highest note, like you're climbing up a staircase, okay? So we're going to do this. And you're probably like, oh my god, this is so lame. But hear me out. A lot of people when they're soloing, what they do is they'll play the low note to the high note, then jump to this string, play the low note, and then the high note, and then the low note, high note. So what you're doing is you're descending down a staircase. If you can picture a staircase like this, when you're walking down the staircase properly, you're going to do it step by step. If you do this pet peeve that I hear all the time, and I'm like getting freaked out by it already, is it's like you're going down the staircase, but what you're trying to do is you're going to jump down one step, climb up another, jump down two steps, climb up another, and jump down. Like, that's going to hurt your ankles, okay? So you don't do that. And musically, it hurts the ear sometimes if we do this. This is not a worthwhile finger exercise nor a practicality in music. There are some exceptions to the rule on what to do or when to do a move like that. But for now, what you want to practice, and we'll do more stuff, is you want to practice going up with flow and down with flow. Now, is that the end of the lesson? No. All right. When you listen to any riffs that are made of pentatonic nature, it's very rare that you're going to find these moves that are going to go, oh, before I do that, here's the opposite of going high when you're doing this. So what you're doing there is you're climbing the steps and you're going bump, 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 and again, that's going to break your ankles, okay? So we don't do that. You want to practice with the flow up and the flow down. You know, maybe my right hand should be in the video. Who knows? All right, so up properly, step by step, boom, 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 and down step by step. And when you're writing now or soloing, the smoothness of your solo or the connection of these notes together is what the listener wants to hear. If I'm playing a solo and I'm doing like, if you notice, I mean, it was probably hard to see because I'm not saying that was blazing fast, but that wasn't the slowest thing. I'm connecting the notes through a path. I used the scale and I didn't jump around. I didn't jump to get to a note. And now the thing is, a lot of these notes in the pentatonic become kind of like passing tones until you get to the very note you want to emphasize. So if I'm soloing, now I hit a note not in the pentatonic, I apologize. But the note I wanted to emphasize, and then I kind of made my passing tones flowing with one note to the next. I didn't jump like that, and I didn't do this. You can hear the sharpness and like the punching effect that you get when you break up a pentatonic into its wrong steps. Again, just a quick recap is you want to make sure you're flowing up and you're flowing down like a staircase. And now let's talk about how to get a little bit more out of this. When you're soloing, and I mentioned this in several of my videos, something called directional intent. When I'm soloing or improvising, I'm going to listen to which way I want to go. And in the pentatonic, it's very, very simple. If you want to go higher, you go this way. If you want to go lower, you go this way. So if I'm soloing and I want to go high, I'm going to sew my notes together. But you're probably like, hey, Ian, didn't you just break that stuff apart? No. What I'm doing here is I'm keeping my direction this way, but I'm swinging on notes that connect, and I'm pivoting, and I'm going back and forth. What I'm doing is I'm connecting notes like, okay, check this out, like Gene Kelly in Dancing in the Rain. If you were to picture him dancing on the staircase, hope you guys know this, watch the scene. Instead of him going up the steps like this, like boom, bump, 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 you'll see him come really quickly up, quickly down, quickly up, quickly down, quickly up. So if he wants to get from the bottom of the staircase to the top, he's not just going to go whoop, and he's not going to go bam, boom, bam, boom. He's going to go up, down a little, up, and down a little, and up. And that's, very visually interesting to watch. And also, when we hear it, it's very interesting to listen to. So when you're soloing, if you want to go high, you don't have to blaze straight to the top and run out of room. What you want to do is dance on the staircase step by step. Until you get to the very last note. Again, I keep all my mistakes in because I am human. So here we go. So when you're soloing, picture yourself like Gene Kelly. And if you don't know who Gene Kelly is, look up Gene Kelly in Dancing in the Rain. Watch his feet. You'll understand. He moves so swiftly with these tiny little steps. And so what you want to practice doing is going back down the pentatonic step by step, going up the pentatonic step by step, and then soloing step by step. But don't be afraid to change your direction as you solo. So if I was soloing, down, up, then backwards. Okay, now you might have seen where I did this. And that is acceptable. I jumped once, right? Just to let you know, I jumped once, but I kept that big, nice flow downhill, backed up a little, and kept going. So when you practice your pentatonic, make sure you're practicing the flow of your direction step by step. It's very, very important. Now really quickly, what about my pet peeve, that sound, that disjointed nature, where you're climbing upwards but you're jumping backwards like this? I hate that. Okay, so how do you, when would you use something like that? Well, if you're writing a riff, if you want the riff to flow, you're going to do the Gene Kelly approach, right? You're like... And then if you want to have a very, poignant stop, you'll practice, these kind of jumps that break up the song. So you have a flowing riff, and you can hear that tension that builds when I'm climbing upwards but jumping backwards in the scale. All right, so this type of move has a very certain place, but it builds tension, all right, because you're not flowing. You're really jumping to places, and it's hard to find out, you have to listen intently, where are we going with that, because the ear's not being led. So if you write a riff and you have an intent in mind to write something smooth, and then you want to add a little bit of tension, you can try doing the forward motion with a backward step, and you'll hear it just kind of stops everything. And so that has a tension building technique. And if you want to solo with this, same exact effect, but you don't solo with it, because if you solo with that motion, you're going to sound like Dave Matthews, right? And you don't want to solo like that, but you can bring it into your soloing, you can hear as I climbed backwards, because it's disjointed, you were kind of waiting for what happens next. So the flow up and the flow down, you want to connect your notes. You want to try going slowly up a staircase by going up a little and down a little. And you also want to try coming down a staircase, but descending, coming back up a little, and then descending again. And your soloing and your feel should get a little bit better. When you want to add a little bit of tension, tension, if you want to add a little tension, you can try doing the disjointed steps where your motion wants to go forward, but your steps are going backwards, kind of like the moonwalk. A lot of dancing analogies here. Like, again, you can hear the disjointed nature of it. Here it is going backwards, but you're going backwards down the scale, but up on your notes. And there are times where you can put that in, but it's very limited. So practice soloing, load up a backing track in any key you want, practice any minor pentatonic you want, practice being smooth like Gene Kelly on the stairs. And when you want a little bit of tension, do the wrong thing. And then get back into your soloing. So just a little bit of practicing a pentatonic with the flow. You have to surrender to the flow of music for it to sound good. And when you break things up, you get a tension in there. And if you sound like that, it's because that tension is in your playing. And it's not your intent, it's just how you're playing your scale. So again, kind of a beginner intermediate lesson. Play with the flow up and the flow down, and the flow up and down and up and down and up and down, and then down and up and down and up and down and up, and then you can bring in that disjointed nature. If for any of you Grateful Dead fans out there, usually they love each other. When Jerry Garcia goes to take the solo, he'll play a G major pentatonic, but he plays it in this disjointed nature, which gives this effect like. And you hear him come up backwards, and then he goes into a solo. It builds some tension. So there are ways to play the pentatonic that sound a little bit better than others. I hope this helped out some people out there. Rock and roll. Take it easy. Bye-bye.